Welcome to Tripping the Void with your host, Saraphine Hurley. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go.
Good afternoon and good morning to those just waking up, and good evening to some of those who are in the evening time. This is Saraphine Hurley with Tripping the Void. How are you doing? Welcome to Saturday afternoon here in Southwest Florida for me. And this is a live show, so you can call in, and the call-in number is 202-559-7943. And today we're going to be talking about cursed and haunted objects, which is a thing that's very close to my heart because I collect things, and a lot of people go, oh, don't do that. But, you know, I've never had an object that's been so horribly bad that I couldn't handle it. I do have some things that are something that has to be locked away, because if I do have it out in general population in my home, then things start disappearing on their own, or things get moved, or whatever happens. But other than that, I just put the object away. But besides being a collector, I always love reading about, and it's not loving reading about the bad things that happen to people when they do receive or look at cursed items or haunted items. It's very interesting to see how some of these items can turn the tides of people's lives or end up the way they are. And the stories about them are just so different. I mean, they all may kind of do the same thing, but they're all different in every single way, if that makes any kind of sense, right? So, from haunted dolls, haunted houses, haunted jewelry, you know, since before the invention of the printed word, we've been hearing tales of haunted objects, right? So, when the topic of hauntings comes up in the discussion, it usually revolves around a spirit or something creating havoc in a home, or chaos of all kinds, attaching to a person and following them from place to place. In the paranormal world, things are not always as simple and straight out as it seems. Spirits and other things can ultimately latch on to almost anything that they can channel their energies into, right? Dolls, animals, common things that you'd find in almost any house. And I do mean anything. There are some of the most haunted objects in the world that I'm listing here. And these will have you reconsidering the next time you feel like getting something cute at a garage sale or a thrift store or a state auction, or even buying items from online. I mean, come on, eBay even has its own category of haunted items. I think Jen was saying that. I mean, back in the day, I remember when they first started doing eBay, they had haunted listings, but they didn't have their own place. It was just under everything else. And now they have their own subcategory, which is really interesting, I thought. So in all of this, I thought that I would start off with the haunted paintings, because that's pretty much where this all kicked off on the internet with, oh my gosh, this painting and that painting. And the fact that we were talking about a certain painting on Infinite Inquisition the other night too. So most of us know about some of these, but I did not include pictures of the actual paintings themselves. A lot of them come with warnings, and since I do care about everybody there. If you want to look them up, definitely use caution, because there's even reports of people having issue when they do look these paintings up, or even try to print them. And I'll go over that later as well. But, excuse me, my allergies. There can be no doubt, right, that paintings can have powerful influences over us. They're even truly remarkable things on their own. You know, I've been to many an art museum all over the world, and they just captivate you and pull you in just without supernatural anything surrounding them, right? Haven't you been inspired by just looking at a painting and just kind of wanting to fall into it, feeling its pull kind of magically, right? When an artist basically puts brush to canvas, they are in a sense channeling their own soul and imagination into these images. And we see these things can have a very potent and emotional impact on us. We can be moved to tears, reduced to a completely depressed wreck, or be given some kind of inspiration filled with adoration, or even completely repulsed and disgusted. Then experience that whole spectrum of emotion by merely looking at paint or other medium on canvas. However, can paintings have influences over us and our world and realities? Are there times when, rather than channeling the artist, are they channeling powers beyond our basic comprehension? Are they sometimes more than paintings? I ask myself that a lot. Saturated with the supernatural rather than just paint, while paintings can certainly have a powerful effect on us, it seems that in some cases they can have an effect beyond feeling, reaching out to have an effect on our own reality, or they can even become conduits or portals to mysterious powers and places. There's been haunted or cursed paintings that seem to go far beyond the works of art that they have become. We're going to talk about some of the most sinister, mysterious, and often creepy haunted paintings. Please keep in mind that some of these paintings, once again, the images of many have been said to have not only spooky effects, but have been found to be disturbing to people when they have viewed them, even online. So consider yourself warned. I know a lot of people are like, pshaw, whatever, stupid picture of a painting, or a picture of a picture of a painting, or whatever. I've seen some pretty crazy stuff in my life, and some of these I wouldn't look at, because just some of the stories are just, oh my gosh, amazing. Excuse me. Perhaps the most notorious and well-known of haunted paintings is a work by Bill Stoneham called The Hands That Resist Him, which has achieved so much notoriety that it is frequently billed as the most haunted painting in the world. The story starts back in 1972 when Stoneham was living in California with his first wife, Rowan, and was contracted to produce 2 works of art per month for gallery owner Charles Feingarten. With his deadline coming up for his next painting, Stoneham decided to create a work based on an old photo of himself when he was 5, entitled after a poignant poem that his wife had written for him about he had been adopted and never known his biological parents. The result was an image depicting a young boy and a decidedly creepy-looking, dead-eyed female doll standing in front of a glass-paneled door, against which numerous spectral hands press out from the darkness beyond the glass. According to Stoneham, the boy is himself at age 5. The doorway represents a barrier between the waking world and the dream world, and the doll is one who will guide him through the doorway into a world of fantasy. As for the hands, the artist has cryptically said, and this is a quote from the artist himself, "The hands were all of the possibilities. You were left with the question, are these disembodied hands? Are they dismembered, floating there in space? Or are they connected to bodies?" That's his quote. The painting went on being displayed at the Feingarten Gallery in Beverly Hills, California, where it was mentioned in the Los Angeles Times by noted art critic Henry Seldes. At this expedition, the painting caught the attention of the actor John Marley, who had played the role of Jack Woltz in The Godfather. In case most of you didn't know, he's the guy that finds the horse head in his bed. That scene, right? He's the one that purchased that painting. After that, the painting sort of went on its way, and Stoneham went on to other things, okay? Like painters do. He's going to go on doing other paintings, blah, blah. So in the meantime, within 1 year of coming into contact with the painting, 3 people died. The art critic, Seldes, the gallery owner, Feingarten, and the actor who had first purchased it, Marley. After all of that, the painting sort of just disappeared, and it was almost forgotten until the year 2000, when an elderly couple found it left abandoned behind a California brewery. Who would leave a painting just kind of abandoned? I know the specs on this painting. It's kind of hard to miss. And it left it behind a California brewery that was abandoned and vacant, being sold. Okay. And it was being turned into an art space of some kind. But anyway, although the deaths that were associated with this painting were already weird enough, it was with the couple's acquisition of the painting that its descent into terror would truly begin, and it would become a work plagued with strange phenomenon, dread, and even claims of evil. In February of 2000, the couple put the painting up for sale on eBay with an ad that made some extremely chilling and bizarre claims that it was cursed, haunted, or maybe even both. The ad stated that the sellers had been perplexed as to why such a perfectly good painting had been left behind, but they had quickly realized why. The ad generally reads more like a warning than an ad. It says dramatically, and this is directly quoted. I got a copy of it if anybody wants to actually see it. When we received this painting, we thought it was a really good art. A picker had found it abandoned behind an old brewery. At the time, we wondered a little why a seemingly perfect, fine painting would be discarded like that. Today, we don't. One morning, our 4.5-year-old daughter claimed that the children in the picture were fighting and coming into the room during the night. Now, I don't believe in UFOs or Elvis being alive, but my husband was alarmed. To my amusement, he set up a motion-triggered camera for the nights. After 3 nights, there were pictures. The last 2 pictures shown are from that stakeout. Now, if you go to the website and you do see these pictures, there's some amazing pictures of that motion camera set where you can actually see the doll moving in the picture. It's really, really interesting. So, yeah, it's a little on the creepy side. So, daughter claiming that the children were fighting and coming into the room. Okay. Now, I don't believe in UFOs or Elvis being alive, but my husband was alarmed. They'd set up the motion-triggered camera. After those three nights, after seeing the boy seemingly exiting the painting himself, under threat, we decided the painting has to go. Please judge for yourself. Before you do, please read the following warning and disclaimer. Warning. Do not bid on this painting if you are susceptible to stress-related disease, faint of heart, or are unfamiliar with supernatural events. By bidding on this painting, you agree to release the owners of all liability in relation to the sale or any events happening after the sale that might be contributed to this painting. This painting may or may not possess supernatural powers that could impact or change your life. However, by bidding, you agree to exclusively bid on the value of the artwork with disregard to the last 2 photos featured in this auction and hold their owners harmless in regard to them and their impact, expressed or otherwise implied. Oh my gosh. Now that we've got this out of the way, One question to you eBayers. We want our house to be blessed after the painting is gone. Does anybody know who is qualified to do that? Question mark. Are you who? I've seen some strange things on eBay, but wow, that's quite the claim there, right? That not only the painting's haunted, but I'm going to leave some creepy pictures of the painting that I'm trying to sell you for what the artist's base worth of this work of art. It's a priceless work of art, mind you. It's a very beautiful haunting painting. No pun intended. It is a very beautiful painting. However, then you're going to write, maybe you shouldn't buy it, and we've got all these creepy pictures of it. Only in America, right? This strange ad was posted and accompanied by the images taken by that motion trigger camera that claimed to show the doll from the painting threatening the boy from the painting with a pistol in her hand. Also a warning not to use the painting's image as a background wallpaper. Also, to not show it to juveniles or children. Pretty strange, right? Well, this story quickly spiraled into new levels of weirdness. The ad alone drew a huge amount of attention on the internet. Over time, it gained over 30,000 views, and it quickly became the stuff of legend. Many people who sought to take a look at the Hands That Resist Him painting. Reports immediately flooded in. Report after report, email after email, people feeling uneasy, people feeling faint, being overcome with a sense of deep unease. But it seemed these effects were not even limited to seeing visions within the painting in person. Many people reported strange occurrences just by viewing the painting online. Some people said they felt nauseous, lightheaded, dizzy, or irrationally terrified when looking at the images. Others claimed that their children would run away screaming when they saw it, or that babies would cry in its presence. A few online viewers had claimed that their printer would malfunction if they tried to download and print an image of this. Isn't that strange? On a more ominous note, there were people that reported hearing eerie, disembodied voices, feeling hot gusts of air when looking at the painting, periods of missing time, some feeling like they were being gripped by some unseen force. People also reported being grabbed or tickled by invisible hands, or having the feeling that their mind was being controlled or taken over by a mysterious entity. One person who had viewed the painting said they felt completely unsettled and violated when they saw it. They actually burned white sage to spiritually cleanse their room. Reports like this propelled the painting's scary reputation into every corner of the internet, which basically all over the world, right? And it became a regular discussion point on many conspiracy sites. You know, back when 4chan was a baby. One of the photos of this painting allegedly showing the doll from the painting threatening the boy with a gun. And the funny thing about this painting is that that doll doesn't have anything in her hands. That's very interesting. At least to me, I thought it was really interesting. Amazingly enough, with all of this going on, and with the painting's reputation and creepy lore growing every day, still some people actually wanted to acquire it. The Hands That Resist Him painting would go on to get over 30 bids and ended up being purchased by Kim Smith of Perception Gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan for $1,025. About a month after the purchase, Smith was approached by a paranormal group and was asked how things were going with regards to the haunted painting. And so Smith told them, and this is a direct quote as well, "I wish I could report a bizarre happening or mind possession type of thing, but the unusual thing started happening with the first email and counting. Prayers and quotes from the scriptures, from men of faith, advice as to how to cleanse my residence of this evil thing from a Native American shaman in Mississippi, reports of people being repulsed, made physically ill, or suffering from a blackout or mind control experiences. The gallery even approached the artist of the piece himself to ask about his thoughts on the matter, to which he responded with surprise and claimed that the gun in the painting wasn't even a gun at all, because it's not if you look at it yourself, but rather it's a dry cell battery with a bunch of wires. Currently, The Hands That Resist Him is kept in storage at Smith's Gallery and has only been taken out for viewing 6 times as of this time period right now, with the painting stirring up feelings of unease and dread every time it's out. In one of the viewings in 2007, a group of men ranging in age from 14 years to 60 reportedly stared blankly in silence at the painting, almost as if in a daze, for around 30 seconds, before one of them stated simply, "That's creepy." That seems to be probably the most common and apt description of it, to be sure. And to this day, there are stories that trickle from experiences when looking at this painting, The Hands That Resist Him. Stoneham actually went on to paint 2 more sequels to this infamous painting, which is the interesting part, right? So since this one got so much popularity, let's say, that he goes on to paint 2 more paintings, which makes you kind of scratch your head and go, all right. So one of them is called Resistance at the Threshold, which depicts the same characters within the picture 40 years later. Threshold of Revelation, which was completed in 2012, both of which has yet to appear to be free of any strange phenomenon. For his part, the artist, who has been deluged with mails asking him about the original haunted painting, has gone on to say, also a direct quote, "We live in an age of science, of revelation, and hard realities, and hard facts, but we are still drawn to the mysterious, and what is more mysterious than paintings? More than any other object, paintings are a one-of-a-kind thing created by someone using their hands." The Hands That Resist Him is not only allegedly haunted or cursed painting. This isn't the only one by a long shot. This one is the one that has basically gotten the most press and the most people that have basically, you might as well just come out and say it. A lot of people tried to sue over this painting making them ill or mental or something. So this is The Hands That Resist Him is not the only one in succession at all. And for some reason, the single artist, all of his works have something paranormal happen with them. Every single last one of them. If you look at any of his listings for his gallery listings, there are a lot of, and they're very haunting. And I'm saying haunting not in a creepy way, but haunting as in, wow, did this come out of your id somewhere, like in the back of your head from when you were a child and you were scared in a dream or something? Because they're very surreal, all of them. So, yeah, The Hands That Resist Him is the name of that painting. Now, at the end of a downstairs hallway at the Hotel Galvez in Galveston, Texas, there hangs a portrait of Bernardino de Galvez, who was a Spanish military leader who aided American forces during the Revolutionary War, and for whom the town of Galveston is actually named. Although Galvez died in 1786, it has been claimed that this particular portrait of him, because there's quite a few portraits of him, because he was a very famous guy, obviously. This particular painting seems to harbor the man's spirit, or a lot of people believe that it harbors at least a piece of his spirit. There are various phenomena associated with this painting. Numerous guests have also besides hotel employees, claimed that the painting's eyes very unmistakably follow them up and down the hallway. Cold spots, sudden senses of fear and unease are felt near the painting are not uncommon. One of the curious aspects of this painting is that apparently does not like to have its photo taken without permission. I mean, do you like having your photo taken without permission? I mean, you got to give it some kind of credit, right? People claim that any photo of the painting will turn out blurry, show inexplicable orbs, mists, light streaks, or even be full of frightening ghost-like skeletal images unless explicit verbal permission is asked of the painting to take its picture, after which the photos turn out perfectly fine. This claim was actually tested out by a paranormal investigation team who were quite chilled to find out that, in fact, their photos of the painting really did turn out blurry, unless you ask. Once again, this is a live show. If you have any questions or if you've seen any of these paintings or have anything to add to this, our call-in number is 202-559-7943. Our next haunting painting is not just one, but this is an entire series of paintings, which all of you may already know this one too. It's collectively known as the Crying Boy. In the 1950s, Italian artist Bruno Armadillo, also known as Giovanni Bregolin, painted over 65 portraits of Italian orphans crying, which he sold as souvenirs to tourists in the wake of World War II. So after everybody's getting everything back together, people are starting to make money. This guy is painting and deciding to tout his paintings out on the street corner, trying to make money off of his sad paintings. It used to be a thing, emotional paintings. Crying children used to be cute. I don't know why that would be, but to each his own, right? So after selling these souvenirs, during the 50s, the series of paintings went on to become one of the most popular mass-produced series of prints in the UK. But it wasn't until the 1980s that anything strange was associated with them at all. No reports, nothing at all. It started approximately in 1985. When someone claimed that firefighters were finding completely undamaged copies of the Crying Boy. And these are copies, these are not the actual painting itself. So prints of the Crying Boy among ashes and rubble of completely burned down houses. The prints always seem to be lying face down on the floor. In over 50 house fires, copies of the Crying Boy paintings are claimed to have unexplainably avoided fiery destruction and ended up in the same face-down position. It was also reported that homes and apartments which had copies of the paintings were also prone to higher rates of house fires than usual. To the point that when people would see this painting hanging in your house, that it would make people nervous and people would be like, you have this painting, you need to get rid of it kind of situation. Or did you know that your house could catch on fire? It was that much of a big rumor. So numerous psychics go on to make claims that the portraits were haunted by the ghosts of the orphans who had died during World War II. And the whole story almost took on an air of urban legend. It must be noted that the original story had appeared in the British tabloid newspaper, The Sun. So as we all know, The Sun mixes news and kind of like Inquirer-like events as well. So it's a serious newspaper, but it's tongue-in-cheek somewhere as well. So it should probably be taken with a grain of salt, probably. Yet many insist that the prints are actually capable of repelling flame. The Sun actually organized mass bonfires for owners of the paintings to come out and burn them, with many of the participants saying that they all seem to be burning remarkably slowly. Like some of them would hardly catch fire. And you know that they were pouring accelerants like petrol, gasoline, whatever, petroleum products on it to get these things to start fire faster. And they were burning at a much slower rate. And there's not just one report of this. There's many reports of this actually happening, because people were amassing in town squares to burn this painting. And it's just kind of interesting that infamously that it would have that kind of effect on towns or little hamlets in the middle of nowhere. Let's burn a bunch of paintings. Yay. No. So they got these bonfires. They're burning these paintings. There's even a BBC video of the guy who I presume thought himself to be only one way to find out kind of person, and can be seen trying to burn a copy of The Crying Boy, which is claimed to be more resistant to burning than a normal painting would be. So yes, there's video. I did see the video of that. I didn't watch the entire thing, but yeah, he was right. It didn't burn very well. It didn't look to be wet or anything, like he had tried to do a trick photography kind of thing, to let me show you something and have it be gimmicky. But nope, it wasn't really clickbait. It really didn't start burning very fast. And for a print, you and I both know posters and print work usually go up. I mean, we use them as tinder for building fires and campfires and, you know, fires in your wood stove in the wintertime, right? So no doubt scarier, allegedly, haunted paintings would have to be called. Well, this painting gives me the willies, and I don't scare very well, but just the look of it is, I don't know, why would, it's just really strange. A lot of you may have seen this one too. This one is called The Anguished Man. The undeniably creepy and some claim terrifying painting was allegedly kept for 25 years in the attic of a grandmother of a man named Sean Robinson. The grandmother had always made odd claims about the painting, such that the painter had mixed his own blood into the paint when he created this work, and that he had committed suicide after completing it. The grandmother had also claimed that voices could be heard screaming or crying when the blood-infused painting was viewed, and that an ominous, threatening, shadowy, spectral shape could also be seen in the vicinity of this painting. Interesting, huh? Interesting grandma. Wish my grandma was that cool. So after seeing all of this and saying that the shadowy spectral shapes could be seen within the vicinity of the painting, convinced her that it was haunted by the artist himself and was the main reason that it had been tucked away into her attic for all of those years, for 25 years. Wow. And then coming by it. In 2010, Robinson inherited the painting from his grandmother upon her death. And almost immediately, his family was experiencing weird occurrences. Harassed by strange forces pervading their home, Robinson stated that upon acquiring The Anguished Man, his son had been pushed down the stairs by unseen hands, that his wife felt something stroking her hair, and that there were instances all over the house of poltergeist activity. The family also heard the screaming and crying that Robinson's grandmother had described, and at one time spotted the mysterious shadowy figure lurking near the painting on many occasions as well. The Anguished Man gained the most notoriety when Robinson set up a camera near the painting to record the paranormal phenomenon. He did upload it onto YouTube, and the videos show various instances of alleged ghostly activity, such as the painting falling into the floor, doors slamming shut, and even smoke rising up from the painting. Spooky stuff, but many viewers have claimed that it is nothing but a hoax. Whether or not the Anguished Man is really haunted or not is the hard part. I mean, who's going to really say something's haunted or is not haunted, but even just looking at that, that painting's kind of like, well, it's not hard to argue the fact that it is indeed very extremely unsettling to look at. Robinson has reportedly locked the cursed painting in his basement and refuses to sell it. Incidentally, The Anguished Man is another painting which some state instills those feelings of nausea and panic, dizziness, and definitely unease. I didn't feel unease when I looked at the painting because I've seen it several times before, but however, I feel repulsed because it's kind of like another one of those paintings where you're wondering what the artist was thinking, like, wow, were you really working some stuff out when you were doing this painting, or what happened? Because, wow, this painting is interesting to say the least, right? So now the painting we're going to talk about is not actually a painting in and of itself. It's a painting of a photograph. So in the mid-1990s, an artist known only as Laura P. was making a living off of creating paintings based on photographs, and her attention was caught by an odd photo taken by a commercial photographer by the name of James Kidd. The photograph in question shows an old-fashioned stagecoach in the foreground along with a rusty wagon. The strange thing is that looming off to the side, there's a wispy figure that appears to be headless, which Kidd insisted had not been there when the photo was taken, instead appearing upon development. Although Laura was not sure what exactly drew her to the picture, she became overcome with an irresistible urge to paint it, and went about creating a 16 by 20 inch oil painting based on it. So that's some musing there. Like that muse came out and said, yep, you're going to paint this painting. And even though it's creepy, but you're going to keep going. Okay. So the artist reports that immediately upon staring at the painting that she was overcome with a terrible sense of dread and fear, to the point that she was hesitant to even finish this painting. But she was somehow compelled to keep on painting through this overwhelming sense of doom that kept hanging over her. When she was finished, the painting titled Painting of a Headless Man was hung up at a local office, where it proceeded to promptly creep everyone right out. Workers at this office claimed that as soon as the painting arrived, papers and files started going missing, objects would be moved to different locations, and when no one was looking, and that even the painting itself would move on its own, it always looks crooked, even when it's constantly being straightened. After a mere 3 days of freaking everyone out, the office asked Laura to what? To take her painting back. They're like, all right, Laura, you got to take this off our hands because we're pretty much, it's cool and everything, but it's got to go, right? I mean, what would you do in her shoes, or the person working at that office going, well, I think I've had enough of this, right? Who cares about the lady in the other cubicle who's wearing way too much Avon perfume or something? Just get rid of the painting. So when Laura moved with her husband after taking this painting back, okay, she took it to a new home, and so did the mysterious forces that live within the painting. At the new home, the couple repeatedly heard various sounds, such as knocks, bangs, footsteps, and other less definable noises, which always seemed to happen in the general vicinity of this painting. Additionally, other weird occurrences started happening with increasing frequency, such as objects moving up and down on their own or around or disappearing, spilt salt next to upright salt shakers, doors opening by themselves, roofs leaking that even professionals called in to investigate could not explain, dogs when other animals suddenly growling or being spooked for no discernible reason, and other similarly, not really, I wouldn't even say minor, but generally unsettling phenomenon. One allegedly infamous, people say famous, but it's infamous at this point, incident which seemed to be, more or less sinister than how she placed it off. But the artist herself was basically in her kitchen, and she grabs a glass. You know how you would go grab a glass of water, right, from the kitchen cupboard, go, do, I'm getting my glass of water, standing there, and all of a sudden, the glass that she was drinking from suddenly broke in her hand, and a large piece of the jagged, shattered glass vanished without a trace. Now that it is a little creepy, you'd be wondering what the heck happened to it, right? Laura even told a friend about these strange events happening all over her home, but her friend was highly skeptical and even reportedly laughed out loud when she saw the painting itself. According to Laura, when the friend returned to her home again that night, a large clock that had been hanging on the wall for nearly 40 years suddenly fell and was smashed to pieces. Coincidence? Or did the painting perhaps not like being laughed at? Another friend of the woman came to photograph the painting, and when he was laying out the photos at his home, he claimed to have seen a spectral, headless figure looming in the shadows from the corner of his eye, prompting him to immediately dispose of the pictures he had taken. The artist of the painting has apparently lamented the fact that she ever painted a painting of a headless man, and has expressed a desire to have it destroyed. What is going on with this painting? Why does it attract so much activity when the photo is actually based on something that seemingly is absolutely normal? I mean, it's a pastoral scene. It's basically like a barn with a stagecoach and everything, all the accoutrement that would go with that kind of a scene, right? And there's a headless guy in it. But it's a portrait of a picture, which is the thing that is really strange. Well, at least to me, it's really strange. This is definitely an odd case, to be sure. But, I mean, a picture being turned into a painting, but there's nothing wrong with the picture. Nobody has a problem with the picture. The picture's fine. But the painting has all the activity. And that's what I found in my research, is the painting is basically it. So, I mean, we could go on and on about that painting, but we've got our next one here, which is also in Texas. It's at the Driscoll Hotel in Austin, Texas. It already has a reputation as being heavily haunted, and it seems even, well, the Driscoll is known as a haunted hotel for those that don't know the Driscoll very well, or Texas. And it's, like I said, it's in Austin, Texas. So the painting that we're talking about is haunted on its own. It's not just the haunted hotel, it's the painting itself. So one painting being exhibited there is called Love Letters, which is a replica, again, it's a replica of yet another painting depicting a little girl. So they say that although the little girl in the picture is a different person, she resembles very much another girl. The other girl is Samantha Houston, the 4-year-old daughter of a U.S. senator who died while staying at the hotel when she fell to her death down a flight of stairs while chasing after a dropped ball. Guests and employees have reported that the girl in the painting will sometimes change her expression or slightly shift positions. There are also reports of the painting making anyone who looks at it feel ill, dizzy, or creating the rather unsettling sensation of being lifted into the air when standing in front of it. even though it's not a portrait of her. It is thought that the ghost of the dead senator's daughter has taken a liking to it and chosen to take up residence within or around the painting, which I thought was really interesting. And so on that note, I'll remind you that this is a live show, and we'll go ahead and go to break. This is Tripping the Void with Saraphine Hurley, and thanks for listening.
The LNM Radio Network offers an exciting chat room for you, the listener. Come interact with your fellow listeners and like-minded people and talk about the shows, from the paranormal to conspiracies and anything else LNM related. All you have to do is go to the LNMRadioNetwork.com website and click the LNM official chat page button at the top of the homepage. Then click connect and you'll be able to log in to the chat room. We're here for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the chat room is for both Studio A and Studio B. We look forward to seeing you there.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
This is Jason Bland, host of Paranormal Soup on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. And we're streaming as a webcast to our Facebook page, Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where you have guests who will blow your mind, live ghost box sessions where you can call in to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the World Wide Web of Weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern on the LNM Radio Network.
Do you own a laser printer, copier, or a fax? Well then, listen close to this announcement. Laser Technologies has been providing high-quality, frustration-free toner cartridges that are guaranteed not to harm your equipment for over 20 years. Laser Technologies will save you on your supplies with high-quality and fast delivery. Savings up to 50%. Laser Technologies supplies toner, imaging drums, developer and cartridges for most of the major brands. For a price quote, send an email to service@laser-technologies.com. Include your printer make and model for your part number. Call us at 561-792-9600. That's 561-792-9600. Laser Technologies, providing 100% of the quality at a fraction of the price. 561-792-9600.
How to know if you should reach out to a friend? Your friend might be worried, sad,
grumpy, angry,
stressed, weird, rebellious,
anxious,
antisocial,
lonely,
sleeping less,
sleeping more,
eating less,
eating more. Look, there are a lot of things to watch out for, but you know your friend best. So if they're not acting themselves, why not say something? Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Won't you stay and play with me? I'm having a tea party. It's such a lovely day to have a tea party. I'm having a tea party. I'm having a tea party. Won't you stay and play with me?
Some knowledge belongs to us and us alone. The way our girlfriends walk, the way they talk, the way they touch their hair. We hold details that only a sister can know about her girls. But what about our other girls? The ones that we carry with us every day. Can we describe them when everything's right?
can we feel when something's wrong? Our bond with our sister girls gives life. But knowing your breasts can save it. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. That's knowyourgirls.org. Brought to you by Susan G. Coleman and the Ad Council.
Well, thank you and welcome to Tripping the Void. If you're just tuning in now, this is a live show. I'm Saraphine Hurley. Call-in number for today is 202-559-7943. And just as a reminder, we are an independent radio station, and in order for us to bring you the awesome content and the awesome hosts and hostesses on this network constantly, we do have bills to be paid. So we need your donations. So like, share, and subscribe. If that's all you can do, we're getting ready to go into new platforms, new chats, new hosts, new hostesses, new shows. Lots of neat things are going on here at the LNM radio station. So this is a great time to be all in. So I know that I'm all in. So if you want to follow me, let's get those donations coming in and keep the network going with LNM Radio Networks, because this is an LNM Radio Network program produced by the Neelys, Katie Neely, and it's an LNM Radio production. Come on now. With our network affiliates online as well, we've got High Point Radio, 100.5 of New Jersey, also broadcast in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, 1620 AM, WCET 101.7, Columbia, South Carolina, KOY 1230 in Phoenix, Arizona, KYAH 540 AM, Utah's Talk Authority, all home to LNM Radio Network, the home of the truth. You may also visit iTunes, Twitch, YouTube, Neely Worldwide Publishing, Neely Productions Incorporated, Open Eyes Network, Daily Motion, TalkStream Live, Paranormal Radio, LNM Radio Network shows are streamed and restreamed via other various outlets all over the world via the internet. So you can find us pretty much anywhere. Google is a great place. Hashtags, Google, internet, Facebook, all these places to find LNM Radio Networks. Late night in the Midlands. This is such a great time to be a part of us. So thanks again for your listenership. And we love you all dearly. Can't wait to see you in the new chat. So we're talking about haunted and cursed objects. And right now we're talking about paintings. So, yeah. So the last painting it looks like I'm going to be talking about for now is a painting called The Dead Mother by Edvard Munch. Of course, this is a weird painting, right? The artist's decision was made in 1972 to hang it from the ceiling, probably to prevent anyone from sitting in ever again. Oh my gosh, this dead mother thing. Hang on, it got me all backwards. It was Edvard Munch. He got me. At least I can laugh at myself, knowing that I'm not perfect and everything. Because as much as I'd love to think that I was perfect, definitely not a perfect person. But talking about paintings and the things that go into paintings, it's not the first or the last time I've ever heard of people painting with their own blood. In fact, there are several artists that did that. yeah, it's just hard to take in that you would not only bleed your soul out onto the canvas, but also be painting in your blood and all that other stuff. It just really, I don't know. How do you feel about that? And once again, our call-in number is 202-559-743. Have you ever felt like a painting could have been haunted, or that you had a haunted painting, or that a picture is haunted, or anything of the sort? I know that I've had several things in my life. I was actually going with an artist at the time who gave me a painting that turned out to be a rendering of a voodoo deity, in which he had no idea that it was, but it came forth onto paper for me. It was all drawn for me, and I thought that was like, wow. So just knowing that all of the work that goes into these paintings, and like the anguished man and the photograph, the picture, the painting that was made from the picture is just startling, that from one to the other, how something kind of picks over into one thing, where the picture is completely fine. You can look at it. You can, there's no strange events, nothing. But this painting goes on to not only end up in the hands of several people, but it also goes into, just like I said, it's mind-blowing, the things that surround all these paintings or pictures. Because pictures, enough, I know you look through a photo album and you're like, oh, you get the feels because you're looking at your grandmother who's passed away for like 20 some odd years now, or maybe sooner. And, you still feel that oots in your stomach of seeing her face and wishing she was there with you. They'll think of that in a painting form, and not knowing who that person is, but still feeling that weird pull, right? So Edvard Munch and this painting of the dead mother, which not a lot of people are familiar with. It's a very interesting painting. I've actually seen this one in person. So the artist, as most of you know, is most famous for his painting The Scream, and overall being a fairly dark individual. Munch had been driven nearly insane by his upbringing in his house of abusive religious fanatic of a father, and after the tragic death of his mother and sister by tuberculosis when he was only 5 years old, the dead mother seems to reflect angst, despair, and insanity, with these elements congealing to the form that can only be described as a truly disturbing painting to look at. It depicts a young girl with her back turned to a bed on which her dead mother lies as she holds her hands to her ears and displays a wide-eyed expression of disbelief. Munch himself said of his work in his typically dour way, "Sickness, madness, and death were all black angels who watched over his cradle. Already creepy enough then, but it gets even more. People who have owned the painting claim that the girl's eyes incessantly follow them, that the sheets on the mother's bed rustle and move on their own, or even that the girl's apparition itself, the whole figure of the girl, leaves the painting." I found that to be pretty interesting. So it seems like not just art galleries and homes, breweries, auction houses, not even establishments of higher learning and rationality are free from the scourge of cursed paintings or haunted paintings, right? In the picture gallery of the Royal Holloway College at the University of London, there hangs a painting called "Man Proposes, God Disposes" by Sir Edwin Landseer. The painting shows the crew of a doomed Arctic expedition led by Sir John Franklin, all being devoured by polar bears. So it is a rather chilling sight on its own, right? The odd thing about this particular painting, other than it being exceptionally gory and realistic, is that it's thought to drive students mad or make them fail their exams, which is a little problematic considering the picture gallery is often used for taking exams. The rumor of this painting is so persistent that it is customary for the college to cover the painting with a Union Jack flag on the days leading up to, as well as during an exam. One famous story at the college is when one student became so utterly and hopelessly upset by the painting that she was driven insane and allegedly killed herself right there at her desk in front of everyone. I would say that would be a good enough reason to get rid of the painting, but apparently still it hangs there, freaking people out as it always has. It's a very interesting painting. It's a little gory, but it's, you know, if you've seen Civil War paintings and other paintings that are very realistic in their nature, that of course are lions, you know, on the hunt in natural history museums, that's gory. So yeah, of course. But wow, people freaking out about the legend that this painting just overwhelmed. I mean, the legend of the painting looming over your head as you're poring over your exam, which you were like crunching for the night before all night, and then going by the painting and going, man, I'm doomed anyway, right? So it's hard to say if this denotes a really haunted painting or something else, but it certainly is an interesting story, right? It's an interesting painting. I should have posted it, but you know, you never know. So we've covered some of the world's allegedly haunted or cursed paintings, a sampling of bizarreness from the world of art, but there are certainly lots more. Any of these works of art truly, or are they haunted or possessed, or other sinister forces at work, or are they just constructs of canvas and wood and paint and bodily fluids maybe? There can be no doubt that paintings can have the power to have a profound emotional and mental effect on the people who view them and stir up a wide range of feelings, including elation and sadness and everything that goes with it. I mean, are these more than the wood and the canvases? Are these windows into the minds and souls of the artists, in a way giving us glimpses into a world outside of our own mind and a range of whole sensory experiences, perhaps even influencing us to the point of having the imaginaries, right? However, in the case of some of these paintings, haunted or cursed, perhaps they are windows into something else as well. Perhaps they are portals into the unknown, from which forces and entities beyond our understanding are reaching through them. Either way, it's clear that the paintings are, in more cases than not, much more than simple works of art, right? So we're going to talk about more haunted things. Ghosts and otherworldly beings, anomalies, definitely aren't ever just paintings. They're not ever, it could, for all you know, you could pick up a haunted screwdriver at the Goodwill. You never know. It could be anything, a lampshade. I mean, if you've ever watched Twilight Zone or Outer Limits or any books, things like that, things that reality is stranger than anything. So, you know, we can go to dolls and chairs and paintings and mirrors, objects. So paintings are objects, dolls and mirrors and chairs are objects. And then being haunted and cursed to actually exist. And because of their status, you definitely do well to give them some, well, for me, because I'm a collector, I don't really give a wide berth to anything odd. I like to poke it and touch it and look at it and take pictures of it and see. And if I can afford it, I'll buy it. But other than that, I am absolutely intrigued. But since we're getting into the fall season, my favorite part of the year is fall. And since Halloween is coming up, I decided to do more reading on this kind of stuff. And said, this being said, these make for some deliciously spooky stories. So, yeah, true or not true, but most of these that I've read have not only some, but a lot of validity to the things that are being said about these objects. And once again, this is a live show. So if you do want to call in and share a story, if you've had experiences with any of the objects that I'm about to relate to as well, I definitely would love to hear about it too. So Robert the Doll, which actually lives down here in Florida. So when Key West artist Robert Eugene Otto, or Gene as he was more commonly known to his family, was 4 years old, he was given a doll as a gift. This is how the story goes anyway. The doll looked kind of human, but kind of not. He wore a sailor suit and carried around a toy of his own, a miniature stuffed lion. Gene named him Robert. And from that moment he first appeared, weird events plagued the family's home. Gene's parents would periodically hear Gene giggling with someone, as an unknown person with a deep-sounding voice. When they got closer to his closed bedroom door, they could hear murmurings. Furniture started to get overturned in rooms in which Robert sat. Gene began having horrible nightmares. Toys would disappear and reappear, mutilated. And wherever something went wrong, Gene would utter the phrase, "Robert did it." Even after Robert was banished to the attic, passerby claimed to see a small figure moving from window to window. Many believe this doll to be cursed. These days, Robert is kept under lock and key at Key West's Force East Martello Museum. You can visit him, but make sure to ask his permission before taking his picture. He doesn't take kindly to unsolicited photographs. And whatever you do not bring home a Robert the Doll replica. Seriously, I wouldn't. And I'm a collector. Apparently, there is a YouTuber that lives not too far away from where I'm at. I believe his name is Omar Gosh and has Omar Gosh TV. And he has a Robert the Doll replica, and he has had supernatural dealings with the Robert the Doll. It'd be nice if I could get Omar on my show. I'll probably try to get that at some point soon, since we're getting close to Halloween and everything. But he has several YouTube videos. So if you're interested with his Robert the Doll, he even brings a psychic medium in that is on his paranormal team to deal with Robert the Doll. It's really interesting. But it's not actually Robert the Doll. It's like Robert the Ditto doll, because it's a replica of the doll that you can purchase in the gift shop. Isn't that interesting? And I know that he's not the only one that has had instances and occurrences that have happened with it. And even he's moved a couple of times and still things have happened. So I'd like to catch up and find out what has happened, because I haven't seen him in a while. But let's see. Moving on, we have something all of y'all probably know about, the Dybbuk box. It's got its own movie. I believe now Zach Baggins is the owner, unless he's sold it on. But I believe it was part of his museum there for a little bit. He did a show on it. So it's a 2012 horror movie called The Possession, which goes a little bit over. It may not be entirely true, but the item known as a Dybbuk box first made its appearance on the internet in 2003 when it was put up for auction on eBay. Its owner at the time claimed that he had picked up the box, intended for the storage of wine, at an estate sale in Portland, Oregon in 2001. It had belonged to a Jewish woman who had lived to the ripe old age of 103. In the box, she'd always said, housed the Dybbuk. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on the Dybbuk box because we already know a lot about what has happened with the box. The box had a spirit in it, may still have a spirit within it, and that a lot of people have. I know the person who originally owned the box or picked up the box itself, his mother suffered some kind of a stroke, and other people have died who were in the possession of it. But there's a lot that goes into a Dybbuk box, and if you are not familiar with traditional Jewish, traditions, that I would look that up, because just going by the happenings of the box itself, but knowing exactly what goes into a box like that is really super interesting. So I won't beat it to death. We all know about it, but just the Dybbuk box being what it is, and it's not the only one, it's just the most famous one. I'd like to know who else either has had one, seen one, or knows where there is another one. Annabelle the doll. Who knows Annabelle? Everybody knows Annabelle, right? Annabelle also has her own movie because of said circumstances, besides the fact that it was a pretty decent movie. But before, after all, she does have her own we talked about having her own movie. So we'll give you a refresher course here. Purchased from a hobby store in 1970. She's a Raggedy Ann doll. The doll that would later become known as Annabelle spent a considerable amount of time terrorizing a pair of nursing students before paranormal experts Lorraine and Ed Warren were called in. So if those of you are not familiar with Ed and Lorraine Warren, please do Google them. They're amazing people. And their cases are even more amazing to read about. Although initially the spirit within the doll claimed to be that of a young girl, Annabelle Higgins, who had been found dead at the age of 7. Eventually, it would become clear that this was not the case, right? Of course. Of course, it's not a little girl and a doll. The Warrens determined that Annabelle was actually a demon posing as the spirit of the little girl, and even worse, that she was intent on stealing one of the nursing students' souls. An exorcism seemed to have solved the problem, but the Warrens, who took Annabelle with her at the conclusion of the case, ended up building a locked case for the doll after she started getting up to her old tricks at her new home. If you want, and I don't know if this is still true or not, because I know for a while they were doing walkthroughs at the museum. I think Mr. Zaffis may have the doll now. I'm not sure, but they had Warren's Occult Museum for the longest time. It was a small museum, and now it's a larger museum. But this doll has been locked up. She will continue to be locked up. The only time I've actually seen her not locked up was on an episode of GA, and we all know what happened on that one. So if you didn't, it is on an episode of GA at Mr. Baggins's museum. And so, let's see. It's worth noting that Annabelle got redesigned for her cameo in The Conjuring. So if you haven't seen it, she did get redesigned because, as I said before, she looks a lot less creepy in real life. So I can understand why Hollywood would take some poetic license with it a little bit to make her a little bit more creepy. But I think her being an actual Raggedy Ann doll, because what little girl didn't have a Raggedy Ann doll back then? I mean, I'm basically a child of the 80s, and I had Raggedy Ann sheets. Who didn't? Raggedy Ann curtains, Raggedy Ann everything. So what's creepy about that is it's an item that is so entirely mundane, but sinister. Inside it holds this sinister presence, and that blows my mind. I think it would have been better if they would have left her a Raggedy Ann doll. What do you think? Because then that's a lot more, cerebral. Because then, who's afraid of Raggedy Ann? Right? So, Thomas Busby's stoop chair. So we're running down some of the most haunted items, and these are items that have been legitimately listed as haunted items, not only by parapsychologists or paranormal teams, but a lot of times listed by states. Governments have called some of these things highly, I mean, if a government is actually going to name something haunted, doesn't that blow your mind that the government would admit to that? But we still have non-disclosure on so many things. I know, another entirely different subject, but come on. So, Thomas Busby's stoop chair. Okay. Not everybody knows who this man was, but his chair's famous. Thomas Busby was not a nice man. In 1702, he came to discover that his father-in-law, Daniel Auty, sitting in his favorite chair. This sparked an argument resulting in Auty threatening to take back his daughter. Well, Auty threatened to take back his daughter because, you know, back then in the 1700s, women were treated as what? Property. So your daddy, if you're a woman, could have taken you away from your husband because your daddy owns you. So, because he's a man and you're not. So there you go. So women is property. Boo, right? So before Busby threw him out of the house, that night, Busby went up to Auty's home and bludgeoned him to death with a hammer and hid the body in the woods. The body, of course, was found. Busby was tried and convicted, and he was hanged, tarred, and left in a gibbet by the side of the road opposite of the coaching inn. So for those of you that do not know what a gibbet is basically a really high hanging, it looks like a hangman's pole, you know, like when you used to play hangman when you were a kid, little reverse looking 7 thing kind of puts in the ground. Then either they hung you from a noose or they hung you from a crow's cage. So since they just said gibbet, I'm thinking they probably just hung him by his neck and to warn people to not turn out like Thomas, right? Don't be like Thomas. Don't be a jerk and bludgeon people in the night. Because that would have been pretty gory even for the time. In the 1700s, a hammer. Oh, Google that if you don't believe me. Those hammers are pretty serious. The ones we have are pretty gory, but being bludgeoned by a piece of steel like that, his head would be a pile of mushy goo. Anyways, so it said that on the way to the gallows, right, Busby decided that he would request a drink of ale, back when they would give you a final wish, right? A drink of ale at his favorite pub before his sentence was enacted upon. As he finished his drink, he said, "May sudden death come to anyone who dare sit in my chair." The chair currently occupies a spot in the Thirsk Museum. Terrible fates have befell many who have sat in it, from brain tumors to car crashes. Accordingly, the decision was made in 1972. Lots of things happened in 1972, isn't that funny? It was made in 1972 to hang it from the ceiling. Well, that would keep people from trying. Well, I guess if you got drunk enough, you could try to sit in it, preventing anyone from sitting in it ever again. So I think that was probably a wise move. But then again, I don't know. But I get enough English ale in me or enough Guinness, I might try to sit in that chair anyway. Just saying. But that's me. I'm not saying I always make the greatest of choices, but, you know, got to push that button. So Anna Baker's wedding dress. And this was actually a subject on a couple of shows as of lately. Anna Baker. So, in 1836, ironmaster Elias Baker purchased a mansion near the Allegheny Furnace in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Shortly after, he and his wife Hetty and their 2 sons moved in. Elias and Hetty welcomed a 3rd child, a baby girl named Anna. According to the stories, by the time Anna reached marrying age, she had fallen in love with a local steelworker. And they got engaged in secret, even going as far as to obtain a beautiful gown for Anna to wear to their wedding. Alas, though her father discovered their plan and forbade Anna from marrying the man she loved, as he was born too low class. So, wow. Elias said, the match would never do. They could never be married. So the wedding dress went unworn, and Anna Baker died, an old maid, in 1914. The dress remained on display in the Historic House Museum, the Baker Mansion, and it eventually became basically an icon for quite some time. And every so often, people would say that the dress appears to dance all by itself, its billowy sleeves fluttering and the matching slippers tapping as if moved by a spectral dancer. I thought that was kind of cool. So there's nothing like a pair of star-crossed lovers to add a little extra romance to a legend, right? Because, you know, at least Romeo, she died a spinster at least, not like Romeo and Juliet, where, you know, once again, choices, people. So, the woman from Lem statue. So, you know, the Venus of Willendorf, right? When that was found. The woman of Lem is very similar. She's a little, oh, she's not a lot slimmer, but she's definitely, I'd say, a quarter the size of the Venus of Willendorf. So we're pretty sure that the statue known as the woman from Lem is a depiction of a fertility goddess, because she basically has the features of a woman, but she doesn't have a face. She's got like her hair and everything and other girl parts, but no face. And she's made of stone. But it may as well be a death statue. Well, because that's all that seems to follow in its wake. Dating back to approximately 3500 BCE. 3500 BCE. That is a long time ago. The statue was recovered from Lem, Cyprus in 1878. Since then, it's had at least 4 different owners, all of which perished within 6 years of receiving it. First, there was Lord Elephant. All 7 members of his family died within 6 years of the statue's arrival to their home. Ivor Mendocini's family, owner number 2, all went within 4 years, as did the family of Lord Thompson Noel, owner number 3. Owner number 4, Sir Alan Beverbrook, and his wife and 2 daughters went next, but before it finished off the family entirely, the 2 remaining sons donated the statue to the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh. The museum curator who took care of the acquisition died within a year as well. Freak coincidence? What do you think? I mean, after so many things, it's not like a coincidence anymore, is it? It's more like gee, one of these things seems to match the other, so, so maybe having this item isn't the greatest of things, right? So, now we have the Bazzano vase. Like a number of objects on this list here, death seems to follow this too. This is an antique silver vase. We don't really know where the Bazzano vase comes from, but we're pretty sure that it was created in Italy during the 15th century. Someone had found it in 1988, again, where we are not really sure. And even though it came with a note that read, "Beware, this vase brings death," that someone decided it would be a really good idea to auction it off, even though it had a "Beware, this brings death" note. All right, so I hope that they included the note when they had it on the auction block. It's sold for 4 million lira. Well, at that time, that would be about $2,300. And 3 months later, its new owner was dead. The new owners similarly passed away time after 2 months. The pattern continued, owner to owner, until eventually the police decided enough was enough and buried it somewhere. They just took the vase and they just, okay guys, let's go dig a hole. So they buried it. They won't tell anybody where, but that's okay, I guess, because they didn't want anybody to die anymore, so they just got rid of it. So, okay. So we have a legend of a vase that causes death, but there's only very few pictures of said vase, and now the cops who buried it will never ever tell. Maybe it's a Mason thing. Maybe it's in a Mason hall somewhere. Maybe that's another conspiracy theory thing. I'm just saying. So next we have the Myrtles Plantation Mirror, which there are a lot of things on the Myrtles Plantation that are reportedly haunted items. But the mirror itself, yeah. The Myrtles has a reputation for being the most haunted plantation in the South. So that right there should give you a hint as to what you're in for when you seek out a particular mirror that resides on the premises. One of the many, many stories attached to the place alleges that Sarah Bradford Woodruff, one of the plantation's ladies, and 2 of her 3 children died in 1824 of oleander poisoning. But even so, they never quite managed to leave. It is said that their spirits are trapped within the antique mirror, still on display within the house. Strange marks often appear on its surface, marks that no amount of cleaning can remove, but sometimes it's not just marks. Sometimes it's handprints. The Myrtles is a working bed and breakfast, by the way. So if you've always wanted to spend the night in a haunted place, here's your chance. A lot of people, and I've wanted to stay there forever and a day. I've been to the place myself. It's gorgeous. The grounds are gorgeous. They tour it. They don't like talking about hauntings or anything like that. They would rather talk about the history of the plantation itself. And yeah, it's very interesting in and of itself. And that mirror is really neat to see. So the next here on our list, we have the Tallman's bunk beds, which I didn't even know were a thing. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of, it's random. And since I like random, we're going to do random. So the Tallman's bunk beds, purchased in 1987 by Alan and Debbie Tallman. This set of bunk beds sat in their home's basement for 9 months as preparations were made to move them upstairs for their children. During those 9 months, a series of horrific events took place in the home, including radios changing stations by themselves, visions of witches, and ghostly voices urging the family into dangerous situations. Mr. Tallman grew to believe the bunk beds were the source of this activity, so he burned them. Once destroyed, the activity stopped completely. But the thing with the Tallman bunk beds here is that they were in the New York Post, they were in the Sun, they were in the National Enquirer, they were all over the place. I mean, these people were actually making the talk show circuit at the time with these haunted bunk beds. They'd gotten, the mom, I guess, picked them up like at a secondhand store or something like that, and they just put them in the basement as a DIY project. Who doesn't do that? Like, hey, I found a really good deal on some bunk beds, and the kids need new beds. And so, since we're doing renovations, let's just do this, right? Who doesn't do that? And then what happens? Apparitions, witches, weird things happening, and then as soon as it happened, it's gone after the husband goes and burns them, destroys them completely. Now, if only most things could be that simple, most hauntings, right? You never know. The conjure chest. Now, the conjure chest is actually an Empire-style mahogany veneered chest of drawers. So they've been redone over time, but they used to belong to a plantation owner who owned slaves. And no, I'm not saying that's a cool thing at all. That's not a good thing at all. But this chest is supposedly cursed. A slave owner by the name of Jacob Cooley requested that this chest be built by one of his servants. It was intended to be a gift for his son, but once completed, he was unhappy with the quality of it and beat his servant to death. A curse is said to have been put on the chest that ultimately resulted in 16 deaths throughout history and the history of the Cooley family line. This chest is now on display at the Kentucky History Museum. This chest has also been on several television shows, and you also can Google it. So if you want to look at the chest, and it is referred to as the conjure chest, you can feel free to look it up and take a look and see for yourself what it actually looks like. It's a beautiful piece of furniture, but do I believe somebody should have been killed for it? Absolutely not. Oh my gosh. Now I got something a little interesting. Rudolph Valentino's ring. I'd heard rumors about this a long time ago, but I never really looked it up until recent time. Rudolph Valentino was an actor. He was basically a motion picture classic actor. November 1920, from an article about his upcoming role as Julio Desnoyers in The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, it is said that the silent actor Rudolph Valentino purchased a fancy ring in the 1920s to celebrate his success, and upon showing it to a friend, they had a vision of Valentino as a corpse. Almost immediately following this event, Valentino's luck started to go bad in his career and even in his health. He passed away soon after. Was it the ring? Or was it the movie, his movie role? There's a lot of things that it could have been. I mean, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, that's not like exactly Bambi. You know, that's pretty biblical there. Now here's another random moment here, brought to us by Newport, Rhode Island. Chairs that push people out of them and make them feel sick. I thought was really super interesting, and this has been going on since forever, I guess. Newport, Rhode Island is one of the oldest towns in the United States. Settled in 1690 by the early 20th century, the seaport town had become a popular summer destination for some of America's wealthiest families. Some, actually quite a few of America's wealthiest families, and still is. The mansions of Newport are legendary, as are the many ghost stories that accompany the buildings that have been around for so long. Belcourt Castle was founded by Oliver Hazard Perry Belmont, a wealthy American socialite and politician in 1894. I was having a dyslexic moment there for a second. So 1894, he builds this. There are many different documented hauntings within this lavish home, but perhaps the most famous haunted objects in the castle are two chairs that reportedly have spirits attached to them. Visitors who sit in chairs, they immediately feel cold, queasy, and uncomfortable. Their hands feel like they're shocked by phantom static electricity when held near the chairs. And many people have claimed that they felt like they're sitting on someone when they've attempted to sit in the chairs themselves. Several visitors have actually been ejected from the chairs by unseen forces. Can you believe that? Like an unseen force would just poof. Like all of a sudden, there they go. Do we have a caller?
Yeah.
Hello. Who am I speaking with?
Mike.
Hi, Mike.
I've just popped in just now. I caught part of it before calling. You mentioned about that I guess the one plantation where you can. What are the prices of it? Do you have them?
Oh, you mean the Myrtles plantation?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually stay there. They're like kind of like along the lines of touristy, like Lizzie Borden, where you can stay there as a bed and breakfast, where they're usually pretty booked out through the year. So you have to you just go to Google Myrtles plantation and it'll bring up their schedules and their pricing.
Yeah. Okay. I was just just caught me, and that's pretty creepy about the chest that the dresser or the chest you were talking about for the
conjure chest
or the conjure chest. That's pretty creepy.
Oh yeah.
Have you mentioned anything about the Hope Diamond?
Yes, I'm actually about ready to talk about the Hope Diamond.
Okay. Well, then I'll let you get to it then. Thank you.
Did you have anything to add to the Hope Diamond?
No, I was just wondering. I've seen like documentaries on it and stuff like that, but that's about it. I've always found it interesting. How it's been tried to make. People try to make it so it's not cursed anymore, and no matter what they do, it keeps on, even after, cutting into smaller diamonds and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It still keeps on going, keeps on ticking, like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah, definitely. Is there a special story about the Hope Diamond that you like particularly?
Well, it has that, at least for the pictures that I have seen, it has that beautiful, dark blue hue, almost like a sapphire.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always just wondered, just like with the crystal skulls, some of them are good and some of them are bad.
Mm-hmm.
I just wondered, I wish I could have got here in the beginning of the show. It was just having technical difficulties with my phone, trying to get through stuff.
Well, I was going to say, Mike, you can actually, on our new website, you can set reminders for yourself for if you like a show, you can set reminders up on the website on LNMRadioNetwork.com.
Okay, I'll do that then. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for listening.
Oh, always.
Have a great weekend, Mike.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, and once again, this is a live show, so if you do want to call in and have any questions or anything else, you can definitely give us a call. So yes, I was about ready to speak about the Hope Diamond, saving the best for nearly last, right? The Hope Diamond is one of the most famous jewels in the world, with ownership records dating back almost 4 centuries. 4 centuries, can you believe that? It is much admired. It is a rare blue color due to its trace amounts of boron atoms, weighing 45.52 carats. Its exceptional size has revealed new findings about the formation of gemstones. The The jewel is believed to have originated in India, where the original larger stone was purchased in 1666 by French gem merchant Jean-Baptiste Tavernier. The diamond, also known as the Tavernier blue, was cut and yielded by, well, Tavernier. And they called it Les Bleus de France. So, which Tavernier sold to King Louis XIV in 1668. Then, the stone itself was stolen. It was stolen in 1791. It was recut, with the largest section acquiring its Hope name when it appeared in the catalog of a gem collection owned by a London banking family called Hope in 1839. After going through numerous owners, it was sold to Washington socialite Evelyn Walsh McLean, who is often seen wearing it. It was purchased in 1949 by New York gem merchant, of all people, Harry Winston. Yes, that Harry Winston, who toured it for a number of years before giving it to Washington's National Museum of Natural History in 1958. Believed to have come to the surface 1.1 billion years ago, this gem is estimated to be worth between 200 and 250 million United States dollars. It has traveled the world, but now resides in the Smithsonian Natural History Museum, and some believe it is cursed, claiming that great misfortune and misery will befall anyone who dares wear the 45.52 carat diamond. Rumored victims of the diamond have suffered disgrace, divorce, and even suicide. So we know one of the people who owned the Hope diamond, right? Several people, several very, very famous people have owned the Hope diamond and then got rid of it. So like Elizabeth Taylor had the Hope diamond. I mean, wow, for somebody to give you a diamond that large. I have a picture of it on my little advertisement for my show today, because I wanted you to kind of get the idea of cursed objects. They can look perfectly normal, but the Hope diamond, people don't realize how large that stone is, and to have been able to see how large that diamond was before they even cut it down. Oh my gosh. Can you even imagine how large that diamond stone was? It's mind-boggling. But in order for diamonds to form, or any gemstone, it takes considerably large amounts of time in the earth for them to form and become the things that they are, because essentially it's a mineral process. And so where the beautiful rings that ladies and men like to wear on our hands or around our necks or even on your pierced ears take significant amounts of time to grow in natural forms. So no wonder people want huge amounts of money, but only imagining that Hope diamond, I mean, woof, that is a big rock right there. Anyways, I mean, it didn't bring Elizabeth Taylor any luck now, did it? So we're glad she got rid of it eventually. But so moving on to our next one, the Terracotta Army, which a lot of people realize that I'm from around Seattle area. So we did a lot of touring with our Seattle Science Museum and had casts of the actual Terracotta Army that was uncovered in China. And just like Egyptian pharaohs, that warlords from China and Japan would be buried with their war horses and their trusty men, just in case they should have to fight a war wherever they're going. They're completely equipped, not only with cannons and horses and dogs and their wives and everything that goes with it. It's amazing. And it's really amazing to see. So if you haven't seen what I'm about to talk about, Googling this, that you're not going to see anything gory. You're just going to see a bunch of terracotta dudes. But the funny thing about all these terracotta guys, they all have different facial expressions. Every single one of them is different. So, the Terracotta Army in 1974, 7 peasant farmers in China were digging a well for their village when they accidentally uncovered the 2,200-year-old Terracotta Army, an astonishingly detailed series of 8,000 sculptures that had long been buried as part of a grand tomb. The find has been a great one for China, bringing academics busloads of tourists. But for those who found it, gained only misery. The Chinese government claimed their lands and destroyed their homes to properly unearth this army, financially ruining not just these men, but most of their village. Painful deaths followed for 3 of the 7 because, as one of the survivors points out, they could not afford health care, so some have blamed the government's callousness for some of these men's fates. Others believe that this is a curse very similar to that of Tut's tomb. Speaking of which, because we're talking about items, we're talking about paintings and gemstones and dolls, and now we're talking about tombs and things found in tombs, right? King Tut's tomb. Perhaps one of the most famous curses of all is the tomb of Tutankhamun, the burial place of the 19-year-old pharaoh. All who enter, be they bandit or archaeologist, are said to be struck with bad luck, illness, or death because of the curse of the pharaohs. Belief in this curse predated the 1922 Howard Carter expedition to find Tut's tomb, but his discovery unleashed new life for the legend. The first to die was the canary that was rumored to say, just given to somebody who liked the bird in the first place. But a lot of people say that it died before they even got all the way down into the tomb, because if some of you don't know, they use canaries to make sure that the air is breathable because they're they're fragile little birds, right? Some say, let's see, that this, well, besides it being given away to somebody who really liked the canary itself, some say it was eaten by a cobra, which, if some of you don't know, a cobra is a symbol of Egyptian royalty, while others insist it wasn't even killed, but rather given to a friend, like I said before. Soon thereafter, Carter's financial backer, Lord Carnarvon, died when a mosquito bite became infected. 20 more deaths of people would get blamed on the curse by 1935 alone. To this day, skeptics suggest coincidence or a deadly fungus from the tomb are to blame. But the funny thing is about Tut's tomb and the stories that coincide with Tut's tomb is the fact that people who own objects or people that tried to take said objects from the dig or even place them in their home to do overnight work had horrible things happen to them or family members. And then once the item was replaced back with the collection, then they were no longer bothered by said curse. But a lot of people died. And so, yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting and that it still happens today. And yes, they have proven the deadly fungus thing. So it kind of makes you not want to be an archaeologist. I wanted to be an archaeologist when I was a kid, but, you know, that didn't happen. I fell in love with Indiana Jones. Who wouldn't, right? So, the Iceman. Another mummy, besides King Tut, right? Believed to carry a terrible curse is Ötzi, also known as the Iceman, discovered in September of 1991 in the Usta Alps in Italy. Ötzi is a mummy of a man who is believed to have lived around 3,300 BCE. A glacier grew up around his body after he had died of exposure, and the glacial waters and the freezing temperatures preserved his body. But once unearthed, rumors of a curse surfaced too, and grew stronger as people linked him and linked to him began to die, often in violent accidents. All told, 7 deaths have been tied to Ötzi's uprooting, including forensic pathologist Rainier Hen, who was killed in a car accident en route to give a speech about the Iceman, mountaineer Kurt Fritz, who died in an avalanche, and a hiker Helmut Simon, who discovered the Iceman on a hike with his wife, later died after falling off a treacherous path. I wonder if he was yodeling. Just a question. That just would have been funny if he was. People are too serious. Anyway, James Dean's car. Well, I don't know if many of you understand or believe, but people believed that parts of James Dean's car, if not the car itself, was cursed. And James Dean's car, and I'm sorry to say, I'm going to say it once, was called the Little Bastard. That's what it was called. That's what James Dean called his car. And it was a silver Porsche 550 Spider. The car he died in following an accident in 1955. After that, the vehicle was purchased by hot rod designer George Barris, who planned to sell it for parts. The curse narrative was born when the car fell and crushed a mechanic's legs. As parts of the car sold, the curse is said to have spread. A doctor who bought the engine was killed in a car accident. Another victim who bought the transmission was severely injured in a crash. These tires that were on the car, why would you sell tires from a car accident that killed somebody? I have no idea. Blew out simultaneously after someone had bought them and put them on their car. It sent the person to the hospital, almost killed them, but did not quite kill them. But while the shell of the car was being transported, the truck carrying the car crashed, and the driver was killed. From there, the shell was stolen, and the curse of James Dean's car went quiet, and its location became unknown. Interesting? I think so. So the final thing we're going to talk about is a mysterious phone number. One might think that a cursed phone number sounds like the plot to an uninspired horror flick, but anyone who had this number listed above since its first issuing in the 2000s has died. The phone number is 359-888-888-888. Okay? These deaths include the CEO of a Bulgarian mobile phone company who died of cancer at 48, as well as 2 crooks and 1 mafia boss and another cocaine-dealing estate agent, both of whom were gunned down. All 3 died within 4 years of another. Since then, the telephone number has been suspended, and the company that owns it refuses to comment why, and they will not reissue it, which I find interesting as well. So having a cursed phone number, I mean, the 8s alone, I mean, there's a lot of 8s there, but 8 generally isn't a number that is accursed with anything unless it's in certain sequences. But, you know, numerically, we could talk on and on about this, but we're running out of time today. Oh my gosh. Once again, this is a live show by LNM Radio Broadcasting Network. And thank you for listening, for Tripping the Void with myself, Saraphine Hurley, talking about haunted and cursed items. And you can find me again next Saturday at the same time here on the same LNM network for Tripping the Void from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on Tuesdays from midnight to 2 a.m. and Thursdays from midnight to 2 a.m. for Infinite Inquisition with my sisters here at LNM Radio Network. We are listener supported, so please remember to like, donate, and subscribe. Thank you for listening to Tripping the Void with Saraphine Hurley. You have yourself an excellent weekend. Later.
This has been Late Night in the Midlands, Tripping the Void with Saraphine Hurley. I know I enjoyed the trip. Until next time, Saraphine Hurley with Tripping the Void. Later.